president told Fox Business today in an interview that he believes the war is close to being over. Does it seem like it is close to being over in your view?
Well, not in a way that's satisfactory to the United States. I do think Trump has wanted out of this for quite some time. It's palpable in the way he discusses it. He just can't figure out how to do it in a way that he can declare victory with a straight face. I don't think in the near term you can declare victory until we have militarily cleared the Strait of Hormuz such that Gulf Arab oil can get out. I think it's the right thing to do to blockade ships going to and from Iran, but I think what's critical to demonstrate that Iran is not the hegemon in the Gulf is that we have to make it safe for the other oil producers to get their oil out, which will have a material impact, I think, on the global economy, and while shutting Iran's exports down, certainly have a material effect on their economy, too.
Well, I mean, you are arguing you think this ceasefire is a mistake, that Iran could regroup during this. There are new satellite images today. They were reviewed by CNN that appear to show Iran digging at the entrance of missile bases where their missile launchers are trapped because of the strikes from the United States and Israel. Do you think this is something that they could potentially access during this ceasefire period, or what's your sense of these images?
Well, I think that's what they're certainly trying to do. I mean, we've got intelligence reports that indicate that the administration's claims of success, particularly against missile launchers, may have been overly optimistic. The silver lining here is let them dig them out, let them bring them out. I assume we're going to be watching all these very carefully. As they bring them out, we destroy them, then we can close the tunnels again. This is a question that requires resolve on the part of the president. Now, whether he thought about that in advance or not is highly unclear. But it's a mistake at this point to look for an easy way out. I think the government of Iran has been badly damaged. I don't buy the argument that the regime is still intact, still functioning. I think it's clearly been set back. President Pezeshkian was quoted in the press today saying it would take 12 years to get Iran's economy back to the point where it was on February the 28th, and where it was on February the 28th was in the cellar. So we've had enormous impact, and this is not the time to pull back.
Can I ask you, just as someone who worked closely with President Trump when he was in the Oval the last time, you were in the Situation Room with him. I mean, as we've been watching, he's lashing out at the Pope after he said, and was critical of the war in Iran, and said that there should be peace in Iran. He lashed out last week saying a whole civilization will die tonight in Iran before calling off his threat and implementing the ceasefire. Last night we had Marjorie Taylor Greene on, and she was saying that she worries about the president's mental stability because of things like that. As someone who worked with him, what is your view on that?
Well, I'm not a shrink, so I don't know what purpose it serves by saying he's a narcissistic sociopath. I mean, that's not the issue. The issue is he doesn't know what he's doing. And I think a lot of the behavior shows the panic that he's in, that he can't see a way out of this. For whatever reason, he thought it would be easier than it was. I can't believe he wasn't told that by the Pentagon and others, told that they would try and close the Strait of Hormuz, told that they would go after the Gulf Arab countries. He apparently either didn't listen or didn't believe it, and now he doesn't know what to do. So I think a lot of this is panic more than anything else.
Well, I mean, I think people might hear that and say, you say he doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, he is the sole decision maker pretty much when it comes to what happens next in this war in terms of the United States' moves here. I mean, everyone is kind of waiting and listening to him, whether it's can they have 20 years of enrichment? Before they can enrich, can they do this? Can they do that? I mean, for you to say that he doesn't know what he's doing, I think is probably pretty alarming to some people.
Well, I don't see that as much different from the first term. He does not think in strategic terms, contrary to what his supporters say. He does not play three-dimensional chess. He sees international affairs through the prism of his personal relationships. So when he thinks the Pope is attacking him, his immediate reaction is attack the Pope. None of this is part of a bigger picture. These communications are not part of an overall communication strategy. And in fact, what he did at the beginning of the administration was eliminate a good part of our ability to communicate our point of view into Iran, which would be very helpful to be doing right now.
Can I just ask, what would you have said to the president if he was attacking the Pope over what he said about Iran, if you were the national security advisor still?
Stop.
On that note, Ambassador John Bolton, thank you for joining us.
Very close to over. That is how President Trump is describing the war with Iran in a new interview this morning. Of course, it's also how he described it 4 weeks ago. This is the new assertion.
Is this war over?
I think it's close to over, yeah. I mean, I view it as very close to over. You know what? If I pulled up stakes right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild that country. And we're not finished. We'll see what happens. I think they want to make a deal very badly.
So that was the new statement. This is how he has been saying it repeatedly starting more than a month ago.
Are you thinking this week it will be over?
No,
Are you talking
but soon.
about days?
I think soon.
Okay, and with respect
Very soon. Look, everything they have is gone, including their leadership. We've already won in many ways, but we haven't won enough. You know, you never like to say too early you won. We won. We won the bet. In the first hour, it was over. Well, I think we're going to end it. I can't tell you for sure. You know, I don't like to say this. We've won this. This war has been won.
So if there is something different this time, it could be hope over a new round of talks with Iran, possible new round of talks. If it does come together, Vice President J.D. Vance is expected to lead the U.S. team again. Also new this morning, new satellite images appear to show Iran digging for missiles trapped underground and missile launchers after the U.S. and Israeli strikes. Let's get right to CNN's Alayna Treene at the White House this morning for the latest on what you are hearing. Good morning, Alayna.
Good morning, John. Yeah, look, I mean, we did hear the president give a number of comments during that interview with Fox News, much of it not really new, including this idea that the war is very close to over. That's certainly, though, the hope that this White House has. And I will say from the conversations I've been having with Trump officials is that they do hope they can get a second round of talks off the ground. And they hope that that could happen before this 2-week ceasefire expires next week on April 21st. Of course, that's a big ask, and I'm told that all of the discussions over this potential second sit-down face-to-face with Iranian officials is still preliminary, but that is what they are working toward and hoping that could, if not, result in a final agreement, at least offer enough progress to extend the ceasefire and try to really find this diplomatic solution that many, many Trump officials really want at this point in time. But look, some of the things that the president did say in this interview with Maria Bartiromo, one was he talked about this blockade. He was arguing that it's been successful, of course, the naval blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, and said that he does believe that it's forcing the Iranians back to the table, kind of the intended effect that the Trump administration had when imposing that military blockade. But he also talked about the economy. And the thing that I found really interesting is we did hear him earlier this week, arguing that, yeah, gas prices are bad and the economy might be bad for some time. He did try to walk some of that back, though, in this interview. I want you to listen to what he said.
Well, look, there's a hit because, we go through it for whatever it is, 6 weeks. There's going to be a hit, but it's going to recover, I think, fully. Somehow they misquoted me. I think oil will be down to the levels it was. They said, I expect oil to be high at the midterms. I don't expect that.
So there you have it, him trying to argue that he thinks oil prices and the economy will be in better shape by the time the midterms come. Notably, the comments that he made come, they were published at least today, a day after he met with the House Speaker Mike Johnson and people at the NRCC here at the White House. Obviously, midterms have a lot of Republicans especially kind of on edge with what we are seeing happening in the economy and with high oil prices, but the president trying to reassure a lot of Americans today with those remarks, John.
All right, Alayna Treene for us at the White House. President really walking back statements that, by all accounts, he absolutely did make, now saying something diametrically opposed on the economy. Thank you.